Macedonia, 4th century BCE. At the edge of the Greek world lies a kingdom many consider crude and violent, a land of warriors rather than philosophers. This is where Alexander is born, in 356 BCE, into a court filled with ambition, paranoia, and bloodshed. From the moment he can walk, he is surrounded by the language of power. His father, King Philip II, is a brilliant general and ruthless ruler, a man who believes greatness is seized, not inherited. From him, Alexander learns that weakness invites destruction. Philip is distant, often drunk, and constantly at war. He expands Macedonia through force and diplomacy, forging the most powerful army Greece has ever seen. Alexander grows up watching victories, executions, and betrayals. He worships his father's strength but resents living in his shadow. Philip is the man Alexander wants to surpass, and the man he fears becoming. His mother, Olympias, is his opposite and his mirror. Fiercely intelligent and deeply religious, she fills the young prince's mind with stories of gods and destiny. She tells him he is descended from Achilles and Zeus himself. Whether Alexander believes her or not, the idea takes root. He is not meant for an ordinary life. He is meant for glory. At 13, Alexander is entrusted to one of the greatest minds of the ancient world, Aristotle. Under his guidance, the boy studies philosophy, medicine, science, and Homer's Iliad, which becomes his sacred text. He learns to admire reason and restraint, but also the heroic ideal of eternal fame. From Achilles, he absorbs the belief that a short, glorious life is better than a long, forgotten one. By his teenage years, Alexander already commands troops. At 16, he crushes a rebellion while his father is away, founding his first city and naming it after himself. The message is clear. This is not a child waiting to inherit power. This is a prince already testing the world. Macedonia has given him strength, education, and an unshakable belief in destiny. What it hasn't given him yet is a crown or a war worthy of his ambition. In 336 BCE, everything changes in an instant. King Philip II of Macedonia is assassinated during a public celebration, stabbed by one of his own guards. The murder shocks the Greek world, and within hours, uncertainty grips the kingdom. Enemies circle, rebellions stir, and rivals prepare to tear Macedonia apart. At just 20 years old, Alexander inherits the throne, not through ceremony, but through blood. Many see him as a boy pretending to be a king. Greek city-states whisper about independence, nobles question his authority, and foreign powers wait for Macedonia to fracture. Alexander responds with speed and brutality. He secures the throne by eliminating potential rivals, even members of his own family. Mercy, he learns, invites rebellion. Fear, on the other hand, commands obedience. When southern Greece revolts, Alexander marches without hesitation. Cities that submit are spared. Those that resist are crushed. The destruction of Thebes becomes a message to the entire Greek world. Defiance will not be tolerated. The city is burned, its population enslaved, its name erased. Overnight, the boy king becomes a ruler no one dares to challenge. With Greece subdued, Alexander inherits his father's greatest dream, the invasion of Persia. Philip had planned to strike the ancient empire to the east, but it is Alexander who will lead the charge. Before crossing into Asia, he visits Troy, honoring Achilles and offering sacrifices at the hero's tomb. It is not just ritual, it is a declaration. He sees himself not as a mere king, but as a figure of legend stepping into history. By the end of his first year as ruler, Alexander has done the impossible. He has crushed rebellion, unified Greece through fear and loyalty, and positioned himself to challenge the greatest empire the world has ever known. The boy is gone. In his place stands a king, young, fearless, and convinced the world belongs to him. In 334 BCE, Alexander crosses the Hellespont with an army of around 40,000 men. Ahead of him lies the Persian Empire, vast, wealthy, and powerful beyond anything Greece has ever faced. To many, the invasion seems suicidal. Persia stretches from Asia Minor to the edges of India, ruled by King Darius III and defended by armies numbering in the hundreds of thousands. Alexander is outnumbered, far from home, and determined to prove that destiny favors the bold. His first major test comes at the Battle of the Granicus River. Against advice, Alexander charges directly into the Persian forces, nearly dying in the chaos. But his speed, discipline, and fearless leadership break the enemy lines. Victory follows, and with it, momentum. City after city falls as he presents himself not just as a conqueror, but as a liberator from Persian rule. The real clash comes in 333 BCE at Issus. Darius himself leads the Persian army, confident in overwhelming numbers. Yet Alexander strikes at the heart of the enemy formation, driving straight toward the king. Darius panics and flees, leaving his family and treasure behind. The symbolic victory is enormous. The myth of Persian invincibility is shattered. 2 years later, at Gaugamela, Alexander faces Darius one final time. The Persians prepare the battlefield carefully, flattening the terrain for their chariots. It doesn't matter. Alexander outmaneuvers them again, breaking through the center and forcing Darius to flee for a second time. The Persian Empire collapses almost overnight. Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis fall into Alexander's hands. As he marches through the ruins of an ancient empire, Alexander is no longer just a king. He is something new, a conqueror without equal, a man who has defeated the impossible. But with victory comes change. He adopts Persian customs, demands absolute loyalty, and begins to see himself not as a ruler among men, but as a force above them. The empire has fallen, and Alexander is only getting started. With Persia defeated, most kings would have stopped. Alexander does not. To him, conquest is no longer about revenge or strategy. It is about fulfillment. He claims the title King of Asia and begins ruling as both Macedonian warlord and Persian emperor. He wears Eastern robes, adopts royal customs, and demands prostration from his followers. To many of his generals, this feels like betrayal. To Alexander, it feels inevitable. He pushes east into Central Asia, where resistance is brutal and constant. Cities rebel, assassins strike, and the war becomes personal. Alexander responds with increasing cruelty. Entire populations are wiped out. Friends who question him are executed. In a drunken rage, he kills Clitus, the officer who once saved his life, a moment that haunts him but does not stop him. The line between leader and tyrant begins to blur. In Egypt, he is declared pharaoh and visits the oracle at Siwa, where priests hail him as the son of a god. Whether political theater or genuine belief, Alexander embraces it. He begins to speak of divine destiny openly. His soldiers notice the change. The man who once fought beside them now stands above them. Still, he marches on. Into India, beyond the edge of the known world. The battles are fierce, the terrain unforgiving. At the Hydaspes River, he defeats King Porus in one of his hardest-fought victories. But the cost is enormous. His men are exhausted, broken by years of endless war. When they finally refuse to march farther east, Alexander rages, then yields. For the first time, his will meets a limit. He turns back west, but the damage is done. The conqueror has everything: land, power, glory, yet cannot stop. He has chased destiny so far that it has begun to consume him. The boy king who once sought fame now believes himself immortal, and the world is starting to push back. In 323 BCE, Alexander returns to Babylon, the heart of his vast empire. At just 32 years old, he has conquered more territory than any man before him. From Greece to Egypt, from Persia to the edge of India, the world bends to his name. Yet behind the triumph lies exhaustion. His body is worn down by wounds, illness, and years of relentless marching. His empire is immense, but fragile, held together by loyalty to one man. In Babylon, Alexander speaks of new campaigns. Arabia, perhaps even the western edge of the world. There is no sense of completion, no rest. Then suddenly, he falls ill. Fever consumes him. For days he weakens, unable to speak. His generals gather at his bedside and ask the question that will define history: who will inherit the empire? According to ancient sources, Alexander whispers a single answer: to the strongest. On June 10th or 11th, 323 BCE, Alexander dies. The cause remains uncertain: illness, infection, or poisoning. Historians still debate. What is certain is what follows. Without a clear heir, his empire fractures almost immediately. His generals turn on one another, carving his conquests into rival kingdoms. Within years, the empire that seemed eternal is gone. Alexander's body is carried away, preserved as a symbol, while his dream collapses into civil war. The legend survives, but the unity dies with him. Cities he founded endure, cultures merge, and his name echoes through history as both hero and warning. Was he the greatest general who ever lived, or a man driven so hard by ambition that he burned himself out before the world could stop him? In the end, Alexander conquered everything except the one enemy no ruler can defeat: mortality. If you enjoyed this journey through the life of one of history's most fascinating figures, make sure to subscribe, share the video, and stay with the channel. More stories like this are coming. Stories of ambition, power, and the thin line between greatness and destruction.